Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are looking at the Whisper of the Old Gods cards. In a strange twist, you can see it is 12:04 a.m. and about 30 minutes ago to me, they released an update where we can finally look at the Whispers of the Old Gods cards. We can't particularly buy them with gold yet, so my 100 pack opening is still a few days away, and we can still get the Goblins vs. Gnomes and the Curse of Nyxramus packs. So we don't have to really worry about that stuff too much. But what we do have to worry about, well, not worry about per se as celebrate, is the fact that now we can go into crafting mode and we can click here. As you can see, the update has changed a lot of stuff here. Standard cards, all cards. Uh, so if you click this, this is for the wild card now that we're going to standard and wild. All that, but right now we're just interested in the old gods cards, which are technically still standard sets. The only ones that aren't standard sets right now, and this is going to change real quick when they get rid of Nyxramus and Goblins vs. Gnomes, the only one that isn't standard is these 4 reward cards, which Captain's Parrot, you're going to be able to make that with dust when the update comes out, the old gods comes out. Old Murkai, you'll be able to make that with dust, and these 2 you can already make with dust. So, all of those will be craftable. But we're here for the old gods, Whisper of the Old Gods. So let's start with that. I think neutral is the right place to start, so we'll start with neutral, and then I'll make a separate video for the druid, and then hunter, and so on and so on and so on. Let's look at these cards. This is my first time looking at every single card. I've kept my eyes somewhat peeled. I'll include uncraftable cards just to make sure I see them all. But I haven't really been watching what they're planning on doing. I have been watching their nerfs and their changes of basic and standard cards, so I imagine because of that, we're not going to have really crazy things, but I could be wrong. Let's start. So, first card is a 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health creature named Shifter Xerus. Each turn this is in your hand, transform it into a random minion. Weird. It says it's coming soon. That's cool. Wait a minute. Each turn this is in your hand, transform it into a random minion. So that means just like the first turn that's in your hand, at either the beginning or the end, it's going to transform into some random creature. And then it won't have that ability anymore. So each turn that's in your hand doesn't even make sense. Does each turn mean both players' turns? I would assume this activates at the beginning, but I'm confused as already starting off confused. I'm not even sure. Here's one I could make with dust if it wasn't coming soon. Another 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health creature, the Tentacle of N'Zoth. He has a death rattle to deal 1 damage to all minions. Notice we've got like 3 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health, and they just nerfed Lepernon to be a 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health too. So I think they're definitely trying to get more 1 mana characters that are varied into play, so that different people for different decks will play different cards. It's been kind of stagnant for some of these 1 mana characters. Next one we have is a 1 mana, 1 health, 1 attack, the Zealous Initiate. He has a death rattle to give a random friendly minion +1/+1. That looks like a good card. Have a couple of those. That's a good way to start a deck. This one is probably not that useful because on the first turn you probably don't need to deal 1 damage to a bunch of minions. And this one in particular seems crazy. It seems like it's a legendary card, you can tell by the dragon, that you would have to play on your first turn, on your first draw, just to make sure it doesn't transform into something else. Next we have a 2 mana, 2 attack, 3 health character named the Beckoner of Evil. It has a battle cry to give your Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. So the theme of Whisper of the Old Gods is they're supposed to be the old gods from Eldritch horror tales and all of that. So Cthulhu is supposed to be their Cthulhu equivalent, and a lot of cards are going to specifically just power up Cthulhu, which seems like a drastic shift in ways of having an expansion to have one card that's so important, so focused on. But it might be a cool new way to try it. Let's see. I guess you would play that as long as you have Cthulhu in your hand. Next we have a 2 mana, 2 attack, 1 health creature named the Bilefin Tidehunter. He's a Murloc. So we're going to lose some Murlocs once Goblins vs. Gnomes gets banned. So they did need to replace Murlocs. They also needed to heavily replace mechs because almost every single mech is from Goblins vs. Gnomes. So that means if there aren't a lot of mechs in this deck, it's going to be pretty much impossible to have a standard deck that's focused around machines. So he has a battle cry to summon a 1/1 ooze with taunt. I think he's probably pretty powerful card there. 2 mana to get out a character with taunt and effectively have a 3/2. That's pretty good. Next one we have is a 2 mana, 4 attack, 1 health named the Duskboar. He's a beast. I think you can get something that would have charge or have a little bit more health that's a beast otherwise. But if you were running out of those cards, or you wanted to have 4 cards that were somewhat like that were 2 mana, 4 attack, this would be a good backup card. But there's a charging pig card, I don't remember the name already, that you'd play before that. You'd have 2 of those in your deck. Next one we have is a 2 mana, 2 attack, 4 health. Notice we haven't seen any neutral spells, but I don't know if they ever do neutral spells. I should know that. I've been playing this game for 2 years. Nate the Dark Fisher. At the start of your opponent's turn, they have a 50% chance to draw an extra card. There's a legendary card that I think is exactly the same as this. Maybe instead he's a 2 mana for 4 attack, 2 health, but he has the exact same ability. And if you played both of them, then you'd have a 50% chance to draw a card, and then another 50% chance to draw a card. That's almost a 75% chance that you'd get 1 card. Although my math is probably totally wrong on that. 2 legendaries. Interesting thought to try and stack and have 2 legendaries that do about the same thing. Of course, with the way they're going to ban cards, even these cards that are going to be for Whispers of the Old Gods, they're eventually in a couple years going to get banned too. So you can do that, see how it works, and then get rid of them without really any too much of a fight with the community. Next card we have is a 2 mana, 1 attack, 4 health character named Twilight Geomancer. He has taunt, and he has a battle cry that gives Cthulhu taunt wherever he is. So it's just like powering up this Cthulhu, making him more deadly if you ever draw him and play him. And I think a lot of cards are going to be focused around that. He is probably the most important card of this entire expansion. Next we have a 2 mana, 3 attack, 1 uh, health creature named Twisted Worgen that has stealth. Stealth, of course, is you cannot be attacked by or targeted with magic until you attack. I think they nerfed the one card they could give stealth to cards that don't have it by default, because there was some potential things there where you could give stealth to something that's way too powerful. So I doubt we'll see any new cards that say give another card stealth. Next one we have just a standard character here for 3 mana, 1 attack, 5 health. The Amgam Rager. Uh, so I don't think uh, I don't think you'd probably want to play this. It's probably not worth it, but you know, if there are some cards that equal your attack to your health in the pre-stack, so this would be a good pre-stack card where you could say, play this and then play another card to make his health equal as his attack equal his health. And notice here this says power creep backwards, POWERCREEP. So that is probably the first card that we've seen here that seems really, really powerful for 3 mana. Normally you'd see a 1/3 or a 1/4 at most. Next card we have is the 3 mana, 2 attack, 1 health character, Disciple of Cthulhu. Deal 2 damage, give your Cthulhu +2/+2, wherever it is. Now, with this ability to just continuously power up Cthulhu, I wonder if at some point they're going to consider doing a removed from play option, where you could remove a card completely from play, so that even wherever it is stops meaning wherever it is, or it becomes impossible to get Cthulhu back into play when it's removed from play. Maybe they'll do that, maybe they won't. I think probably they'll just end up getting rid of Cthulhu in a couple years, and then that'll be that. I don't think this is the beginning of a trend. Next, we're going to see a 3 mana, 3 attack, 5 health creature, the Silithid Swarmer, is that how you say it? Can only attack if your hero attacked this turn. I don't really know what to say about that card. That's an interesting thought. I would only play this in something like a warrior or rogue deck, because those are the only ones that are potentially even going to have it where your hero can attack a lot. He is pretty powerful though, with a couple extra health. Pretty much you can see the power curve should be somewhere around 3 mana for 3 attack and 3 health. So for 2 extra health, with this big caveat, you might consider it, although I bet we'll find enough cards that this one doesn't see a lot of play either. Next we have the 3 mana, 2 attack, 2 health spawn of Ninzoth. Death Rattle, give one of your minions +1/+1. This one seems a little underpowered. 3 mana for a 2/2 that has a Death Rattle to give something +1/+1. I don't think I'd play this one. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 4 health with taunt, the Squirming Tentacle. So that's alright, that's a good card. Next we have the 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health Twilight Elder. At the end of your turn, give the Cthulhu, I guess that's how you say it, Cthulhu, +1/+1. Definitely any card that says give Cthulhu plus something, you would have it in your deck if you're making an entire deck focused around that. You'd almost not have these cards if you're not going to play Cthulhu though. I bet we'll find better options. This one's particularly good because it's at the end of your turn. Every turn, it gives it +1/+1. So Cthulhu could come out at like a 10 turn and get +10/+10. Well, +7/+7 because this would have to be played on the third turn. Uh, Next we have is a 4 mana, 3 attack, 5 health, the Aberrant Berserker. Enrage +2 attack. I believe this is almost exactly the same as Berserker. Uh, we're seeing several cards that are just like slightly different versions of cards we already have. It's interesting. I don't know if very many people are going to end up playing 4 Berserkers in their deck, but you might. It certainly is nice to have the options. It's a good way for them to experiment also with letting you have more than 2 cards in your deck without just breaking that gate wide open and saying you can have more than 2 cards of any cards in your deck. Next we have the 4 mana, 2 attack, 5 health, Blackwater Pirate. It's another pirate. Your weapon costs 2 less. Let's see. Your weapons cost 2 less. Now that's not going to be the hero power of the rogue, so that would still cost 2 mana. We're going to have to see some more weapons before I would say this is a good card. It would be good if you're playing a pirate deck probably anyways, because you'd want some more pirates. Interesting, the reward card, the Pirate's Parrot, was given to you by collecting all the Pirates cards, and now you just have to use dust to create it if you want it, because you're not going to get that reward if you get the new pirates. I like that they're committing to giving us more pirates though. That's nice, because the pirate decks so far still haven't been that great. Next we have the 4 mana, 4 attack, 2 health Cthulhu's Chosen. He has Divine Shield and a Battle Cry to give your Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. There is a card that has Battle Cries activate twice, so this would interact quite nicely with that. And it's interesting that you have Divine Shield in a neutral card, because they mostly tend to stay with the Paladin cards. Next we have the 4 mana, 3 attack, 3 health character, the Cyclopean Horror. He has Taunt and a Battle Cry to gain +1 health for each enemy minion. I think you'd do well with this card. On average you'd have 2 or 3 enemy minions when you would want to play a Taunt, and you would be behind the curve to play it, so that might actually be the main problem. Is you'd probably be losing most of the times you play this card, and you probably don't want to make your decks focused around situations where you would be losing, but you might see some play. Next we have the 4 mana, 2 attack, 4 health character, Eater of Secrets. Destroy all enemy secrets and gain +1/+1 for each. This is interesting because one of the most famous decks that's getting played at tournament level is Secret Paladin, where you could easily have 5 secrets. Play this for 4 mana, eat 5 secrets, this would become a 7/9. Very powerful. Although I'm not sure you'd really want to play this, because if you're not playing tournament level, you're almost certainly gonna only get maybe 1 or 2 secrets with this, and then it would just be a 4/6 for 4, which is still kind of powerful. And we don't have a lot of options to destroy secrets, particularly if you're not playing mage that can cast counterspell. So maybe, depends on how many secrets get added in this expansion. Kind of the same thing here, is like, it depends on how many weapons get added in this expansion whether you play this card. Next we have a 4 mana, 2 health, 2 attack, the Evolved Cabald, spell damage +2. Definitely would probably think about putting that in a mage decks. That's really committal, right? I definitely probably would play that in a mage deck. It seems pretty good for spell damage +2 if that's what you really want. It's kind of weak. Next we have is the 4 mana, 1 health, 1 attack, the Faceless Shambler. He has Taunt and a battle cry to copy a friendly minion's attack and health. So this one is open to being silenced, because if it was silenced it would both lose its changed health and be a 1/1 and lose its taunt. But it might be good if you were losing to copy your opponent's minion, or no, you can't even copy your opponent's minion, you can only copy a friendly minion. I don't know. Maybe you could play that, but I don't think you'll play it very often. Next we have a 4 mana, 2 attack, 3 health, the Infested Tauren. He has Taunt and a Death Rattle to summon a 2/2 slime. And that slime doesn't have Taunt. We've seen slime mentioned a couple times. I wouldn't be surprised if we find a card that says destroy all slimes and gain +1/+1, or give all slimes +1/+1, something like that. But we have to see that card to see if they go that far. It's a 4/5. I think this is probably a decent card to play. It's just a little awkward in the way it gives you that 4/5, because you have this one with Taunt that is going to die after you get hit by 3, and then it's going to bring a 2/2 slime that they would have to either attack or just leave alone. Next we have a 4 mana, 1 attack, 4 health dragon, the Midnight Drake. It has a battle cry to gain +1 attack for each other card in your hand. We do need more dragons, particularly, so I'm glad to see this card. This is probably not the greatest of cards, because you're, I would guess, on average going to have at most 6 cards. So you would get 5, then it would be a 6/4. It'd probably even be lower than that. But we do need more dragons, so I'm glad to see more dragons. I couldn't even imagine building a dragon deck until we get several more. There's just not enough there. Next we have a 4 mana, 4 attack, 2 health card, the Polluted Hoarder. It has a Death Rattle to draw a card. This feels exactly like the other Hoarder card. It seems like a lot of these cards are just repeats. Now, this is their biggest expansion ever with the, I think 135 cards coming out, but we're seeing a decent percentage of these cards are just kind of repeats of cards that already existed, and maybe they're just getting re-upped so you can continue to play them for a few more years when the other expansions get banned, and that's the trick. But in the meantime, there's going to be this overlap, unless it turns out like Hoarder is a Goblins vs. Gnomes card, and this is their way of keeping all the Goblins vs. Gnomes cards that they did like. Which would be kind of cheap, but it might be what they're doing. Next we have a 4 mana, 1 attack, 1 health called the Twilight Summoner. It has a Death Rattle to summon a 5/5 Faceless Destroyer. And did we have a card called Faceless Destroyer? I always wonder about that when they say a name of something. Is there a card that's already like that, or is it just a special card? Because it can be either. We've seen examples of both. Again, I don't think this is a bad card. It's just very, very awkward in the way it's playing. You basically on the 4th turn need to summon this and then figure out a way to get the opponent to destroy it so you can get that 5/5. Otherwise it's pretty useless. Next we have a 5 mana, 6 attack, 6 health mech. So there's one mech called the Corrupted Healbot. It has a Death Rattle to steal 8 health to the enemy hero. That's not good, but it's a pretty good trade there. The zombie card, there's a zombie card that will restore a certain amount of health, but it's pretty powerful. You can play on the first or second turn, and this feels a lot like that, but just mid-game instead of early game. Next we have a 5 mana, 3 attack, 6 health card, the Crazed Worshipper. Taunt whenever this minion takes damage, give Cthulhu +1/+1 wherever it is. More Cthulhu cards. Next we have the 5 mana, 4 attack, 4 health Cult Apothecary. Battle cry for each enemy minion, restore 2 health to your hero. This isn't too bad. It's not gonna get you a lot of health. Almost certainly it'd probably get you at most 6. But it is only about 1 health and 1 attack lower than what it should be. So it's almost like 2 cards for 1. I think I'd play that. Next card we have is a 5 mana, 3 attack, 6 health, the Dark Speaker. It has a battle cry that swaps stats with a friendly minion. Interesting new phrasing here, stats. One would assume that means health and attack, but maybe it means health, attack, and mana cost. And maybe it even means battle cry. Maybe it swaps everything. I really want to see this card in play to see what they mean by stats. What it would matter for the mana cost to change after the card has been played. It probably wouldn't matter one bit. I haven't seen any cards that count the mana cost of cards already on the field yet. That would be an interesting mechanic, but so far no card has implemented something like that. So interesting what stats means. Next we have a 5 mana, 3 attack, 4 health mech, the Psychotron. He has Taunt and Divine Shield. So this is just that same Annoyatron card, just brought back, it feels like, from Goblins vs. Gnomes. Next we have a 5 mana, 0 attack, 7 health, the Validated Doomsayer. At the start of your turn, set this minion's attack to 7. So, it never loses its attack. It just, on the first turn, is a 0/7, and then your opponent has to kill it, or it becomes a 7/7 for 5. This is probably a very good card, I would bet. There's a lot of scenarios you could play where you play this on the 5th turn and they just cannot do enough damage to kill it. The problem with the other Doomsayer was if your opponent didn't destroy him, he would kill all the minions on both sides. This is way better than that. Next we have a 6 mana, 4 attack, 6 health, the Ancient Harbinger. At the start of your turn, put a 10 cost minion from your deck into your hand. This one feels crazy. This is the beginning of some crazy strategies, I think. Because you could fill your deck with 10 cost minions, play this, get those 10 cost minions out of your hand, and then have whatever other cards you actually wanted to draw left in that deck. So you could do things like Elisa Starseeker to get the map to the Golden Monkey, and certainly increase your odds there. And the Golden Monkey, if you don't know, once played, turns all your cards into legendary cards in your hand and your deck. So all those 10 cost minions that this would bring out get turned into random legendary cards. This is a crazy strategy, or the beginning of one. You probably need a couple more things, a couple more cards that would help with it, that would draw more cards and such, but yeah, seems like this is going to be overpowered by the people who really know how to use it. He's pretty good by himself even. 4 mana, 4 attack. I'm very surprised that they have a card like this. Next we have a 6 mana, 2 attack, 3 health Murloc that has a battle cry to do 2 damage to all non-Murlocs. That's the Corrupted Seer. This is a useless Murloc card, but if you wanted to expand your Murloc deck so it's just Murlocs, you might throw it in there. You can fill up uh, about 18 of your 30 cards as Murlocs right now, so a couple more to get it in there would work. Uh, but in all actuality, this is way too expensive to do almost nothing. Next we have a 6 mana, 5 attack, 5 health beast, the Mukla Tyrant of the Veil. Battlecry, add 2 bananas to your hand. So Mukla that you have now, it gives 2 bananas to the opponent. This one gives 2 bananas to you. I think he's probably a lot better than the current Mukla, and you would want him in your deck if you were playing a beast deck. He's not that underpowered, and 1 banana would get him back to being a 6/6, as long as it's a good banana and not a rotten banana, which you rarely get rotten bananas. Maybe they're going to change that, the odds of getting one. Next we have a 6 mana, 4 attack, 4 health, the Norabian Prophet. At the start of your turn, reduce this card's cost by 1. So let's say you got this at your first turn. You could play it for on the 3rd turn for 4/4, so it's a good card then. Or you could play it on your 6th turn for free for 4/4. Yeah, that's a pretty good card right there. Nothing wrong with that one. Next we have a 6 mana, 2 attack, 8 health, Scaled Nightmare. He's a dragon. Good, we need more dragons. We need a lot more dragons, so I'm afraid they're still not going to add enough. At the start of your turn, double this minion's attack. Well, 2 would become 4 on your first turn. 4 would become 8 on your second turn. And it would probably take 2 turns to kill this, even on the fact that you have to play it on your 6th turn. So by your 10th turn, this is probably doing 16 damage. And by the 11th turn, 32 damage. And yep, that's powerful. Definitely would have that in a dragon deck if I could ever build a dragon deck. Next is a 6 mana, 7 attack, 6 health, Ski Ram Cultist. Battlecry, give Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. So I wonder if the phrase cultist is going to become used by some cards, where you'll have like a spell that says summon 5 random cultists, and then that would summon 5 of these guys that would power up Cthulhu. Either way, if you're going to play a Cthulhu deck, this is definitely a card to have. Next we have is a 7 mana, 6 attack, 8 health. That is the Bog Creeper. He has Taunt. Yeah, he's worth it. Nothing too special about him. Next we have a 7 mana, 5 attack, 5 health beast, the Grotesque Dragonhawk with Wind Fury. There's another card that looks like this that's way cheaper and has Wind Fury but does less damage. This seems to be way better. And there is a card that randomly summons beasts, so sometimes you're going to get this card really cheaply. So this is a real good card for the Hunter's deck. 10 damage, 5 then 5 is nothing to shake a stick at. Next we have is the 7 mana, 6 attack, 6 health, Hogger Doom of Elenwyn. Whenever this minion takes damage, summon a 2/2 Null with Taunt. Yep, he's good. Next we have is the 7 mana, 4 attack, 6 health, Twin Emperor Veclor. He has Taunt. Battlecry, if your Cthulhu has at least 10 attack, summon another Emperor. Does it summon this exact same Emperor, or does it summon any character with Emperor in the name? That's an interesting thought. I would assume it's the exact same one. But then I assume that if you make another copy of this, its battlecry doesn't activate again. Otherwise, you just have a board full of Emperors, and that would be ridiculous. He's kind of weak, but if you're playing Cthulhu, you're almost certainly going to have a Cthulhu with plus 10 attacks if you play right. Next we have is the 8 mana, 7 attack, 9 health Doomcaller. Battlecry, give Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. If it's dead, shuffle it into your deck. Well, yeah, you would definitely want this card in your deck then. So, let's assume you got Cthulhu out, and then your opponent destroyed it. And then you play a ton of the Acolyte or Cultist cards that power it up while it's destroyed. I would assume that it's still getting powered up in the graveyard, even though Hearthstone has never officially had a graveyard. Cards just disappear. Now it, I guess, secretly does somewhere, even though they're probably not going to show it to you. This guy will bring him back from that secret graveyard, and he'll be powered up, so definitely want him if you're playing Cthulhu. Next we have an 8 mana, 6 attack, 10 health Eldritch Horror. This is probably not a card worth playing, actually. It's too low of an attack and too high of a health for its own good, for 8 mana. You could potentially like double his health with a priest card and then turn his health into his attack and have a 20/20 for 8. Yes, but I don't think it's even worth having in your deck for that. Just the fact it does nothing seems to be kind of pointless. Next we have a 8 mana, 6 attack, 7 health, the Boogie Monster. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion, gain +2/+2. Yeah, that's a pretty good card. He would be an 8/9 after he killed the first minion, and only get more powerful as it goes on. Next we have a 9 mana, 9 attack, 9 health, Blood of the Ancient One. If you control 2 of these at the end of your turn, merge them into the Ancient One. Well, we don't know who the Ancient One is. It would be kind of difficult to have 2 of these. You could do it on the 9th or 10th turn if you had both cards. You could clone a card to be the same as that card with a couple other cards. So there's probably 3 or 4 different cards out there that would work with that. And depending on what the Ancient One is and what it does, it's probably a great card. I would say 9/9 all on top of it sounds good to me. Next we have a 9 mana, 5 attack, 9 health, Soggoth the Slitherer. I'm not pronouncing that right. It has taunt, and it can't be targeted by spells or the hero powers. So for 9 mana, a lot of things would have to go through it. Like 3 or 4 minions are going to have to fight against that usually to die. But it's only a 5. I think you probably could do better than this card. It's too expensive for what it does. And then finally, we have Cthulhu, a 10 mana, 6 attack, 6 health card named Cthulhu. He's not a beast or anything. Battlecry, deal damage equal to this minion's attack randomly split among all enemies. So if you play all those cultists and such, this guy could easily be over 10, I would say 14/15. So a 15/15 for 10, that's really, really powerful. And then he's going to immediately, once summoned, deal damage randomly split between all the minions, which is going to get at least 5 to the face if I was just guessing at numbers. And then you've got a 15-15 there. You're talking 2, maybe 3 turns, and you're done. Definitely have Cthulhu in your deck if you're going to play Cthulhu. And we haven't seen a lot of other strategies where it would make sense to not play Cthulhu, but there are several cards that are just kind of copies of cards that already existed. So uh, some of the current strategies might get improved a little bit and with these cards, but this seems 90% focused on Cthulhu. Next we have a 10 mana, 12 attack, 12 health dragon. Good, we need more dragons. Deathwing the Dragon Lord. He has a death rattle to put all dragons from your hand into the battlefield. Uh, Now, the standard Deathwing card he, is 10 mana, and when you summon it, you have to discard all your hand and kill all the minions on the field first. So it's the only dragon there, and you lose all your cards in your hand. This by far is a way better card. You could play this and then draw some more cards to have a bunch of dragons in your hand, particularly if you're playing a dragon deck. If they manage to get past this 12-12, well then they may summon 4 or 5 other dragons straight to the field, which would be devastating. Next we have a 10 mana, 10 health, 10 attack. 10 attack, 10 health. The Faceless Behemoth. You might want to play this if you wanted to ever play a 10 mana card that had no effect. But I can't for the life of me ever think why you would want to play a 10 mana card that has no effect. There's so many other 10 mana cards that have good effects, and almost none of them have bad effects. Why would you play that? You would play this certainly if you were trying to fill your deck with 10 mana cards. You can see they've added 6 cards here that are 10 mana, so you can have at least all of those are legendary, so 5 plus 2 here, 7. You could have 2 of these in your deck. That's because it's not legendary, doesn't have the little dragon or on the border. So yeah, if you're trying to build that crazy strategy in which you can draw 10 mana cards to get to the golden monkey to turn all those 10 mana cards into legendary cards, which would then give you probably some of these cards back, but give you several other legendary cards in the bargain, one of which may be Reno Jackson, which could refill your health, because if your entire hand and deck is full of legendary cards, that means you only have one of each card guaranteed. There's some crazy strategies that could go there. It's really exciting, actually, that deck. I'm sure somebody smarter than me will make something with a better collection than mine and do some amazing progress on the ranked ladder. Next we have a 10 mana, 5 attack, 7 health, Inzoth the Corruptor. Battlecry, summon your Death Rattle minions that died this game. Nah, I'm just not feeling this card. It's way too weak, not enough health, and it just brings a bunch of Death Rattle minions up. I suppose if you were playing a deck that was about that, managed to knock out my microphone. Anyways, I was saying, I suppose if you made a deck that was very, very focused on Death Rattles cards, just every single card you had was a Death Rattle card, it would make sense to do this. But I don't think you can make a deck that's focused around Death Rattle cards and succeed. So I'd say no to that card. Next we have the 10 mana, 7 attack, 5 health. Almost the exact opposite, is the exact opposite of this one. Yogg Sarim Hope's End. As a battle cry to cast a random spell for each spell you've cast this game. Targets chosen randomly. I think this might be an amazing card if you were playing mage and casting a lot of spells. But maybe a priest too? I don't think anybody else would make any sense playing this cards though. You'd have to play a lot of spells for that to make sense. And then finally we have a 10 mana, 10 attack, 10 health. Yogg-Sarii, Rage Unbound. At the end of your turn, put a minion from your deck into the battlefield. Yeah, that's an awesome card. Definitely play that. Any random minion from your deck. Could be anybody. So yeah, I'd definitely play this. I'd almost always have one of these in my deck. If I felt that I'd draw it and be able to play it on the 10th turn. There still is inherently a problem with trying to make late game decks that assume every game you play you're going to even make it to the 10th turn. But if play turns into that, I would always have something like this in my deck. It has nothing wrong with it. In comparison, why would you play a 10-10-10 here when you could have this 10-10-10 and get that extra feature? So that's it for the neutral cards. We will in the next video look at the druid cards. That will be a shorter video, and then we will go through all the rest of the character cards, and those will be shorter videos too. That's it for this video though. As always, I ask you to like this video, share it with your friends, comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos because all of that helps me out. If you want to support me further, you can click on my name, Rydo. On the right will be a blue button that says support this channel. Click it, make a donation. And if you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.